Hello everyone, welcome to our, I guess we can call it our event review, can't we? Round 3 of the FIA Karting European Championship here from Ampfing in Germany. Our race director Nigel Edwards with us. Nigel,
good evening,
good
Chris.
to see you,
Pleased to see you.
as ever. First of all, general impressions of the event. You've just come from the stewards meeting.
We have. I think like everybody, we had a bit of intrepidation when we first arrived, and as we all know, we can probably talk a little bit about the chicane issue, but that was daunting, and of course what tends to happen is everybody focuses on that and loses sight of a lot of other things. But from getting over that, and I think we found a reasonable solution to that. As the days have gone by, I have to say, I think today's been a pretty good day. Depends how you want to measure it. If you want to measure it in terms of safety and incidents and that, there was no slow boards, no red flags, no medical intervention. So from that point of view, that's got to be good. From the racing point of view, I think probably what happened, I'd sort of got the feel when we arrived here earlier, you could see the track, you could see how it was going to pan out. It'd probably be a little bit follow my leader. And if it wasn't follow my leader, it may be, well, I'm going to have a go now, and maybe then there's an incident. So it probably turned out, I felt, but I thought it was okay. I thought, considering where we were when we came, the club's done very well to get it to where it is. I think they presented the circuit very well. It looks nice. The circuit is in a nice setting. Bit difficult for the competitors in the paddock. There's a bit of a downside there. I think that there are lots of things that can be made better. But I think considering all in all, I think a pretty good day.
I'm going to almost repeat a small conversation we had earlier. People were putting on new tyres in Heat 5. The set that usually you'd save for the final, but they were using them as they thought don't have enough points to make that final. That potentially led to a lot of incidents.
I think it did, and I think we talked about it before a little bit, haven't we? Touched on it, that maybe the Sunday now, even though it is in the heats, has maybe become the actual repechage, or the last chance race.
Yeah,
so
that's a good point.
I guess if you're a driver and you're just on the outskirts of getting into the top 34, you've got to give it a go, haven't you? But what does happen then in the final, you do make it a split. When you look down the grid, I think it was the junior grid I looked down, the first 50% were pretty much on new tyres, the rest of the guys were on old tyres. And clearly when the race unfolded, those guys just drove away. So it was a big difference. It's always the debate, isn't it? Do we have 2 sets, 3 sets, and do you manage them the whole way through, or do you do all of that and then get to the final and have a new set? I like the idea of the people manage them, and I think that is a good thing, but exactly what's happened this weekend is the opposite side of that, is the downside of it. And I think since we got rid of the repecharges and things like that, now we just have the final race. For me, I just somehow get a bit of a feeling that it would probably be better to just have everybody on an even playing field.
Yeah, almost as if you can't put new tyres on.
No, you can't.
Everyone goes in, because we asked the teams about that. I specifically asked Ricky Flynn, and I think at first he might have misunderstood the question, because he was talking about, we had new tyres on for the final. It's like, not the final, Heat 5, but he did go on to say it's something basically you do not want to be having to do it. If you're doing that, you're in a bad position. And I think if we counted up the incidents and the drivers that went off, about 70% of those were on new tyres. So was it a case of this is it?
A bit of a banzai,
go for it.
I think there probably was a bit of that, I have to say, which is a bit of a shame, because obviously that spoiled the race. I mean, if you went through the Saturday, the 24 heats we had Saturday, yes, there was a few incidents, but it's not what I quite expected on Sunday morning, I must admit. So you're probably right. Probably a good summary.
And we go now into the last round. How do you prepare differently for a last round? Do you approach the driver's briefing differently? Of course, people are fighting for not only a championship win but top 10 spots.
Sure.
We've got two comfortable championship leaders in a way, but still there could be the chance of those guys running into trouble. Sure.
There's a lot to play for. Yeah, there's a lot to play for, and I think probably, if anything, the only thing I would say is perhaps not in the preparation of it from the race director's point of view, but I think you have to be. You probably actually come to a point where you're going to be a little bit harder, if you know what I mean. Previously you can explain to people, this is not quite right, you need to do it, but we're getting to the point now where really we've got to make sure everything's firm and people understand it. But I think, it's a good example here with the chicane that we had here. We decided what we were going to do. We know it's not perfect. It seemed to be a reasonable solution at the end of the day. But the thing that what I always try and do is make it fair for everybody and everybody understand it. So when we'd done the bulletin from the stewards, I made sure that on the Friday morning everybody got the note as they came to the grid. This is what we're doing. This is what you're going to get. These are the sort of penalties that will apply. So no, I think you can only be fair, and as long as we explain to the drivers, the people, the teams, that this is how it's going to be. And I get a good feel. I get a good feel from the vibes I've got in there that it's never easy being the race director. It's like the referee at the football match. You're going to put a red card up at some point. And hopefully, you're doing it for the right reasons. And my heart is always in the sport and always in kart, and I like to think that I'm being fair. And sometimes I do. I go home at night sometimes, and I think. It hurts me. It hurts that maybe perhaps something happened and I didn't either make a decision or I didn't understand what was going on, or we actually missed the incident. But generally, I've got a feel this year we're doing okay, and I think people have got a bit more feel for the way that I operate, and that feels good. It feels good that people come and talk to you. Maybe they're going to want to shout at you, maybe whatever. But I think we've got a reasonable rapport going, and the chicane is a good example. This is where we're at, guys. It may not be perfect, but this is what it's going to be like. This is how we're going to do it, and we want to explain that to you. So.
And I have to ask, we get SA popping up a lot. We get Sarno popping up a lot in the calendars.
Yep.
Of course, we have those big tracks, established tracks.
Yep.
We haven't been here for 12 years.
Yep.
Would you like to see almost a pattern form where it's like one new circuit every year that's thrown into the mix?
Yeah, and I think that's got to be good, hasn't it? That's the way it's got to go. I mean, the thing here, and I know if you like, we're the visiting people to here at the club at Ampling, but how else will they learn? How else will they know that, hang on a minute, that Parc Fermé's not quite right, that chicane's not quite right, And I remember, as you know, I'm chairman at PFI in England. We had exactly the same, year one. You've learnt so much about what is required, and actually making those changes does make it better for you in the long term at that club. So I think when we go away from Ampling here, I think they'll be making some changes that will be for the better for their ordinary competitor as they come here, and that's got to be good for the sport, surely. That's that, and again, that's really a CIK type ambassadorial role, if you want. Why shouldn't you be doing that? Why shouldn't you give some of the lesser tracks a bit of an opportunity? Who knows, maybe they will improve, they may go bigger, maybe extend the track, maybe have a new building. It's good for the sport, isn't it? It's a good encouragement for those people to learn, and for me that's good. Yeah, why not? It's maybe not everybody's, in England we say cup of tea, it's maybe not to everybody's liking here at Ampling, but you get what's thrown at you, don't you? You have to make the best of what you've got opportunity, and it shows the drivers that as well.
I want to throw a statistic at you that I did before we came into the event, which was, I think it was 7 of the last 10 championship leaders at the halfway stage have not gone on to win. It's a kind of pattern forming because the 2 championship leaders came into here, they no longer lead, and we now have 2 comfortable championship leaders. Why do you, as a race director, from your point of view, do you think drivers get overexcited? Not the championship leaders themselves, but as everyone kind of is really chasing for that win, that sometimes the leaders can get caught up in
overall
instance or try too hard themselves.
I agree 100%, and I think you'll find that generally when you see the championship winner, when you reflect back on where he's come from, he's probably been quite a consistent runner, quite a level-headed type guy, and when you come into a championship like this, the first thing you probably want to do is, wow, I wish I could win at Ampling, wouldn't that be fantastic, but it's not like win at all costs. A European Championship is forehand. It's not like the World Championships, which is a bit different. A European, you've got to be consistent. You've got to keep working at it. And I tend to agree with you. That's probably why it is. The guys that a little bit more mellow, probably experienced it a little bit more. And I think if you see some of the young guys out of juniors, they're doing really well in senior racing. But for me, they just need a little bit more time. They just need a little bit more in the heads to get into the racecraft of the whole thing. Yeah, we'd all want to win that one race, but that's not what it's all about in a European Championship. So I think there has to be a measured.
And just before we wrap up, we're coming to the end of the show now, but just before we wrap up, of course, next event's actually at Lenato for the KZ.
Yep.
KZ2 and Academy Trophy. Academy Trophy, their second round, but for the KZs, their championship finale.
Yep.
Excited? Is it
fantastic? Yeah, fantastic. I have, and I think the changes they made are for the better. And it's a hotbed of Italian karting, isn't it? So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of vibe there, good vibe, good feel. And again, unlike coming to Ampling here, it's a bit of an unknown. I think that again is a known quantity, but that again might throw up the fact that the establishment probably do make the established results that we'd expect. So there may be a few surprises along the way. I'm sure there will be, but no, it should be fantastic. Great track to race on, great atmosphere, great feel, and for the KZ2 their finale.
Good stuff. Well, I think that's all we can say for now. Nigel.
Thank you, Chris.
Again, thank you very much. Thanks for tuning in to our event review show. Thank you to Nigel Edwards for his time. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back at Lenato in about a month's time for the KZ, KZ2 and Academy Trophy classes.